Whenever you're ready, Candy, I'll call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, November 23rd of 2021. And when Candy's ready, we'll do the roll call.
Okay, I'm ready. Tukalski.
Here.
Caravello.
Here.
Doom.
Here.
Hiley. Hiley. Okay, we'll move on. Hirsch.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Lagaki.
Here.
Mayaski.
Here.
Reeves.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Schumacher.
Here.
And Venegas.
Here.
Okay, we have 11 alders present and 1 excused and absent.
All right, thank you. Minutes and reports are in the packet. Nobody signed up for public comment. Communications. I just want to start out and let the council know that on behalf of the city of Stoughton, I did send a message to Mayor O'Reilly in Waukesha, expressing our sorrow about the events that occurred there. Any communications from alders? And I know President Hirsch and I did have a conversation about hybrid meetings. Do you want to talk about that, Regina?
Mayor,
Oh,
Gene Lagaki had something to say.
Yep.
sorry.
It's okay. I can wait. If you want to go lead with that, it's all cool.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand. There, now I have my screen back up.
Sure. We were wondering, because I know the mask mandate was extended for people that are not vaccinated, I think until January 3rd. But we're hoping to at least try to get hybrid meetings started in January. And we were trying to see, kind of take a straw poll of who, if that's okay with folks, if people would be coming in person or that they still feel the need to do it via virtual.
I would just add that our policy allows either or, so I guess it's up to the individuals, but obviously if we want to do a hybrid, we'd like to have more than just myself or Regina in the council chambers, but I guess that's kind of up to you folks. That was one of the reasons we switched to the Zoom platform, because the Zoom is compatible with our WSTO equipment and the go-to meeting was not. So that's why we're doing Zoom, and hopefully seems like everybody's used to it, except for me. So one of the things go ahead.
I would said I'm here, by the way. I think I missed roll, but I would be okay with some in-person meetings starting up personally.
Okay.
Yeah, we were really thinking that, some of the agendas are pretty packed, that that it would lead to probably maybe more fluid discussion on some very sensitive issues, whereas Zoom, it seems pretty stifled, and we were just hoping to get more conversation going, is my kind of interest.
I'm a big fan of virtual as a time saver. So I feel very comfortable sharing my thoughts via virtual. So I would tend toward virtual. If there's some topics that really call for in person, I'd be glad to come, but yeah, that's my preference.
Okay. I see Greg and Lisa have their hands up, and we don't want to get too deep into discussion. It's mostly communication.
Yeah, let Lisa go first.
Thanks, Greg. I was just gonna say I would be comfortable in meeting in person, but if we don't want to spend a lot of time, maybe a doodle poll just to get, some thoughts from people at some point in December might be an option.
Okay. And
Yeah,
Greg,
my thoughts are that, for me personally, I'm all in favor of doing the in-person, doing a hybrid of some sort to start out with and see how it goes. But we just don't know where we're going. We really just don't know. So we just have to be prepared to continue with what we're doing, or just wait and see.
okay. So we can send out a poll just so we know. And like Regina said, we're planning on maybe in January. And now since the order goes till January 3rd, I think that makes a lot of sense. We haven't really decided if we're gonna have a second meeting in December yet. Normally we don't, but we'll see how the agenda shakes out. So I'll have, probably next week, I'll have Candy send out a doodle poll or a survey or something, and we can get your thoughts. But we at least wanted to let you know that we were thinking about that. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't think we can do a doodle poll actually because of the open meetings law. I just don't know how to do that in a way that's compliant with the open meetings law, but I'll say a couple other things. There's time obviously for there to be an agenda item at, say, a December meeting to talk about this and just put it on the agenda. And then you could do a straw poll at the meeting. And then as the mayor has indicated, I think the way the current policy is drafted, if the council decides to go to a hybrid option, that would allow individual members of the council would still have the option to appear virtually if they choose.
All right, so we'll put it on the agenda. And I think that for committees and commissions, I think that the authority was up to the chair, if I remember correctly, in our last revision. So we'll have to try to communicate that to the chair people of the committee, so at least they know that they can start thinking about what's best for their group. I know some prefer to meet in person, some prefer not to, some will do a hybrid. So we'll put it on for the December meeting, and then I guess we'll go from there. All right, and then Alderperson Lagaki, did you have a communication?
I do. Speaking of December meetings, Community Affairs Council Policy is going to be initiating the start of, in response to our racial equity sessions, most likely a committee on diversity, equity, inclusion. And I know it has been, since the listening sessions and all, lots of things going on in our world. If anyone has feedback, opinions, anything you would like CACP to know as we draft this coming to council, we welcome it. We just want to let you know that that is how we're choosing to proceed forward after the two listening sessions, one well attended, one also the first night of the other, the first night of a school event, and just didn't have the turnout we wanted. And so just wanted to make you aware that CACP is going to be putting forth a DEI committee. And if anybody has opinions, thoughts, please feel free to forward them to our committee.
All right, thank you. Any other communications? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. The first item is the consent agenda. There's two items in there. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move.
A motion by Hunt. I didn't catch the second.
Gene.
By Lagaki. Okay, any discussion or anything voted on separately in the consent agenda?
Could we get a little information about the committee appointments?
Sure. The committee appointments, we posted it on our website and on social media. and we had a couple responses. The one person, Don Dargle for the Landmarks Commission, he lives in one of the refurbished schoolhouse buildings. So he has an interest in historical preservation. In fact, the building that he lived in, he advocated to get a plaque put on the building. So that's kind of his background. And then the other, Eric Quam had reached out to us and just expressed interest in serving the community. And we had a position open on public safety, and he saw that and thought that would be something that he'd like to do. And those were the only two applicants I received. I'm still looking for people to join on the Hall of Fame committee. And they typically meet once a year to nominate and select people to be entered into the Stoughton Hall of Fame. So if anybody out there is listening, or if you know somebody that has an interest in that, you can send them my way. I'm looking for probably a couple people for that, and trying to get a meeting scheduled here so we can get caught up. We're actually a year behind because of COVID. And we're almost into the new year, so pretty soon we'll be 2 years behind. So we'd like to get that caught up. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, hearing no further questions, all in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. Next item is coming from the Plan Commission, R 170 of 2021. Alderperson Caravello.
Yes, thank you, sir. This is R 170 of 2021, approving a conditional use permit, a conditional use permit request by Luke Campion for an indoor commercial entertainment use, which is a restaurant at 177 West Main Street, Stoughton, Wisconsin, and I so move.
Second.
And there is a second by,
Venegas.
thank you, Alderperson Venegas. Any discussion?
What I know about it is that looks like Luke wants to use this space for a Italian restaurant or pizza restaurant, and known as Luca's Pizza, I think, and sounds like a great idea to me, and I support it.
All right, any questions or comments? I know Luke is on the call as well, if you have anything for him.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Alderperson Hunt.
I was just wondering, which property is this? Could we identify it a little bit by its neighbors?
I believe it was formerly the Fired Up Nutrition. They had moved.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. And any other questions? And anything you'd like to say, Luke?
I'd just like to thank everybody for the opportunity, and we're going to try and do a good job over there.
All right. Welcome to the downtown.
Thank you.
It's nice to see the buildings filling up. All right. Seeing no further questions, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All right.
And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. You bet. Have a good night. The rest of these are ordinances, and they're all, I believe, first readings. So I wanted to note that up front. The first one is coming from, well, it went through Park and Rec, then it went to Finance. So I don't know who wants to take a stab at it first.
I want to defer that one to Park and Rec.
All right, so that would be Alderperson Caravello.
You bet. So I'll read this one and then hand it off to Park Director Glenn. I think he'll be able to put a fine point on it, but this is Ordinance 23 of 2021, repealing and recreating Section 66 1101 parentheses 1 and parentheses 2, 67-3 and 67-5 of the Stoughton Municipal Code relating to land dedication requirements, monies in lieu of land dedication, and park impact fees. And this is a first reading.
All right, any questions before we have Director Glenn go through his presentation? All right, at this point, turn it over to Dan. Hopefully your screen will pop up and you can give us this exciting report.
Good photo.
Whoops.
That was the best part of the presentation right there.
He's beautiful.
Okay, I think you guys are seeing not my notes screen, right?
Presentation's up, Dan. Nope, not anymore.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, so yeah, the impact fees, they have to do with developing the park, but there's also a park fee in lieu of which developers don't dedicate money for parkland. That, and then there's also the actual land dedication that's required when homes are built. So the first few slides are okay, then it gets really dry. I'll just warn you guys, it's a lot of mathematical equations and data from the census and our court plan. So whoops. Okay, so the city currently charges a park impact fee and the fee in lieu of for land for public parks. And this fee is collected when the building permits are pulled, and but sometimes these are paid actually upfront by developers, and then a park can get built right away. So that was something that like Nordic Ridge happened, where we collected all the fees up front, built the park, the developer used it, as sort of a selling point for the development. So the money for this ends up in the park development fund, and there's actually the funds are actually segregated between facility improvements and land purchases. And the fees are collected to maintain the amount of parkland infrastructure in the city park system as the city grows. So the last time a study was completed for this was in 2009. And that our fees were actually updated annually by the construction cost index. However, that cost index for improving the parks really has not kept pace with the actual cost to actually improve the park. So we really saw this with Nordic Ridge, where we built out some of the park and we ended up actually having to borrow for like the playground improvements. So that was really the reason why we started having the study completed. So during this entire presentation, you'll see that like the service level standard, quote unquote, you'll see that referenced quite a bit. And it's important because that's the state law prohibits using impact fees to improve, to actually go above and beyond what we actually have. So this is all about maintaining what we have as the city grows and keeping that service level standard. So what is really the Stoughton standard? And that's where Baker Tilly comes into play here. And they're hired to complete the report, which provides the methodology to determine the actual standard level of service that we provide. More importantly, the methodology would be they'd be able to defend the methodology if it was challenged in court by a developer or an outside group. So the study uses a couple of main sources of information: the 2018 Corp, and then also the census data from the census. So the Corp states that there's a need for parks, trails, and park infrastructure. It also documents things like the amount of parkland the city provides. And then the census data, it provides information such as how many people are in the city, at 13,060, that's population estimate. And then the household size per dwelling type. So you have single family, multifamily, and group quarters. A group quarters would be like assisted living facility or something along that nature, where there'd be like one person in a room. So the national standard for parkland is based on parkland per 1,000 people. So the NRPA says the national standard should be 10 acres of land per 1,000 people. So to determine the Stoughton standard service level, the study took the annual or the amount of parkland identified in the corp and divided it by the city's population estimate in the census. And then the result was that 12.12 acres per 1,000 people, or 520 square feet per person. Then to determine the land dedication requirement, we take that 528 square feet per person and multiply it by the household size based on the dwelling type. And this household size comes from the census as well. So this is actually determines how much land should be dedicated per, like, if a developer is going to build a single family home. So it would be 1,468 square feet. The difference between the study and the current dedication requirement is that the current dedication requirement is basically all dwelling types, no matter what. If you have a 1-bedroom apartment, it's the same dedication requirement as a single family home. Well, we do parkland per 1,000 people as a standard. So obviously there's more people live in a single family home typically than an apartment or something. So the new study, it's more accurate, I would say, as far as maintaining the parkland per 1,000 people standard. Then the fee in lieu of methodology, this is where like a developer has to dedicate so much land and then he doesn't dedicate the full amount. So then the city gets paid a fee in lieu of. And the methodology where this starts with examining the cost of acre per land. So this is for undeveloped land adjacent to the city is how we found that and the listing prices show that the land is being sold for about $60,000 an acre. Well, the state statute allows us to add grading and utility costs to the raw land. And we got the utility costs from Stoughton Utilities, and the grading costs were an average of recent bids in Dane County that came from MSA. The result was a cost standard of $78,585 per acre of land. So this cost per person is then calculated using the cost standard multiplied by the per person land dedication requirement. So the current fee in lieu of is $3,828, which is higher than what we're saying, it should be. And it is believed, I wasn't around in 2009. I wasn't involved with the study, so I don't know how the methodology was, but we believe that the road costs were used in the current land cost calculation, and those costs really have now been shifted to the park facility improvement fee, and that's due to state law changes since 2009. So, and then the park facility improvement fee, this is for actually developing parks, putting shelters in and playgrounds. So the methodology to calculate this is started with determining the cost standard per acre, or what it costs to develop an acre of parkland of the type of infrastructure the city currently have in the park system. So, this started really by inventorying the cost to replace the current infrastructure that we have in active use parks, which are our community parks, neighborhood parks, and our mini parks. So that's where I went through all of our park system, inventoried everything that we had. And then, this is like their park shelters, playgrounds and things like that. And the result was 17,675,636. And this, I got this data from engineers, landscape architects, and salespeople from like playgrounds and things like that. So it's pretty detailed. I have a spreadsheet that shows all of our replacement costs for all of our infrastructure improvements. And then that number was divided by the amount of active use parkland listed in our corp, which was the 130.66 acres. So you divide those two, and then what we found out is the cost standard per acre for actually developing the parks, which was at 135,280. So then we know that the active use parkland per 1,000 people is that 9.95 acres, or that 0.00995 acres per person. And you multiply that by the cost standard per acre, and that's how you really found out the cost per person for a park facility improvement. And that number is multiplied by the household size that I mentioned before. So that's how we come up with the facility improvement fee. And you can see it's gone up substantially from the current fee. And this is really just to maintain what we have in our park system. You know, we have a lot of block construction shelters, playgrounds, things of that nature. And the cost for these things are really going up. So. And then this is a new thing that we're doing where we don't have one now. And this was identified as a need in our corp as well, since trails were like the #1 requested facility in the city in our corp survey from city residents. So this is something that some other communities are going towards. So what we did this to determine this, we found a cost standard per foot was calculated really the same way the park facility improvement fee was. So we examined the current trail footage and the cost to replace it. And the cost is pretty low because most of our trails are actually gravel and they're not paved. So the footage per person calculation is found by dividing the total footage currently offered by the city, divided by the actual or the Stoughton population. Then those two items are multiplied to find the cost per person, which is at $32.15. And then that's multiplied by the household size again to figure out what the dedication amount would be, or not the dedication, but the fee would be for each different type of dwelling unit. So I guess there's two really important things to highlight. And due to state law, we're limited to maintain what the service level that we currently have. That's the max that we can do. And it's really, this is all data driven, and the methodology comes from the census and the corp and Baker Tilly's methodology.
All right, we'd open it up for any questions.
I have a question, Tim.
Alderperson Hunt, go ahead.
On your very last slide, Dan, there was the dedication price, and then there was the square footage that could be, I believe, donated, 1,400 and something. It's either or. Either a developer could donate the 1,400 per dwelling.
Whoops. Yeah.
Or they could donate $6,477 for a single family.
Yeah, so the 6477, that's the total fee for everything. So if they don't dedicate the land, or they do dedicate the land, like 51 West, that's a full dedication for the development, right? So
Okay.
that he wouldn't be charged at $2,647. He'd just be dedicating that 1468 for a single family home. So it'd really be this 3741 and this 89
Oh, I see.
for a single
Okay.
family home.
All right, so it would be about 3,800 plus the 1,400 and 68 square feet.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And I believe, Dan, that the city really makes that decision, right?
Yeah, it's really up to the city council if they want to approve a development without the full park dedication or not.
And really, we've been encouraging the land dedication wherever it's possible, whether it's 51 West or Kettle Park West. Obviously, the Brink development's a little bit different because there's not as much green space available. They'll certainly get credit for the portions that they use for the trails. But in the bigger, newer developments, we would like to have the parkland because we just think it makes for a better neighborhood.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I just want to, I don't know if Dan touched on this or covered this, but the acronym, just for the folks watching at home, Corp is Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan.
Yeah, and I would just add, if you're not familiar with that plan, it's on the Park and Recreation website. And it really is kind of almost an audit of all of our parks. And it really includes all the features, all the deficiencies, all the ADA things that we want to work on, the condition of the equipment, and all the amenities. So I think it was a really good plan, and I'm really pleased to see that the committee and also partnering with Public Works, they review that plan as they're doing things to parks, whether they're adding ADA accessible trails or bike racks or garbage cans or new park equipment. So I think that plan has really been utilized well. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. So that was the first reading. So that'll be back at the next meeting. And then we'll move on. We have a series of ordinance in regarding to parking that came from public safety. And Alderperson Jensen, do you want to go through these?
Sure. Are you sure these are first reading? Is going my memory thinks that we touched on these the last time, didn't we? Or was that my committee meeting? I'm confused.
That was a committee meeting.
That was committee? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, God, I'm showing my age. Okay. Let's start with Ordinance 24/2021, amending Chapter 70-176 of the City of Stoughton Municipal Code by amending Subsection 50 relating to no parking anytime on the north side of Ridge Street, 60 feet west from the dead end as marked. And this is the first reading. I don't think the chief is here to comment on this, but as you can see, it's a relatively simple change. It's a safety issue, obviously.
Any questions on this one?
I do have one quick question, since there was nothing attached to these or accompanying these. I'm just wondering about the safety issue. Like what was the particular issue, if these were brought by a citizen or?
No, I believe this was requested by street department, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's near the hospital.
Yep. And it has to do with plowing and just just the public safety and just the convenience and making things, getting rid of the snow and that for safety issues, if I remember correctly.
That is correct. All of these ordinances were brought up for safety issues in regard to snow removal.
Yep. Thank you, Ozzy, for confirming my memory.
Any other questions on this one?
I have one. If these are all in regards to snow removal, are these ordinances written only for the months of November through March or April, or are they all year round?
Year round. It was a request by, like I said, the street department, and I don't believe, like you're looking at 10 feet, it's not going to be a big inconvenience to be around. So I didn't see any issue with that.
I had a question as well. Regina,
Okay.
I had wondered the same thing about wintertime, if it is snow removal. As well as Ridge Street has two different ordinances. And can we comment on, it must have to do with the distance or the location? Because there's one ordinance for the north side and one ordinance for the south side. I don't have my computer open right now. But I was confused why two different ordinances for that same area. And perhaps we'll see when we see the next one. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it's-
have to be something you have to answer right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the other thing too is that right now this is a first reading and that this will be brought back up. And hopefully we can have the chief and we can have Director Haybear there as well. And we can get some of those questions answered.
Yeah, I think the answer on Ridge Street is one is on the north side. And then the other one is on the south side of the road, different areas. And I think it's really, a lot of it has to do with emergency management, getting in and out of there. But we can get you the specifics. I'm guessing it has to do with the ambulances. Any other questions on the first one here? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next one, which was the south side of Ridge Street. Any questions on that one?
I'll introduce that.
All right,
This is ordinance 25 of 2021, amending chapter 70-176 of the city of Stoughton Municipal Code by creating subsection 84 relating to the no parking anytime on the south side of Ridge Street from the dead end west to Lynn Street. Again, this is first reading.
I have a question.
go ahead.
Are the subsection numbers supposed to be consistent within the ordinance? For instance, here we have subsection 84 is created, then further down we have 82, and then we have 84 again.
I would think so. They probably copied and pasted and missed one of them.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And the rest of these ordinances have a similar condition.
Okay,
Their numbers are sort of scrambled.
we'll double check those as well. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions on this one? Okay, we'll move on to the third one.
Okay, let me get that one up. Let's see, ordinance. Okay, there it is. Okay, and this is ordinance 26 of 2021. Amending chapter 70-176, City of Stoughton Municipal Code by creating subsection 85 relating to no parking anytime on the west side of North Madison Street between West Prospect North and north to Roby Street. And again, this is a first reading.
Any questions on that one? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the next one.
Okay, that would be this one right here, and this is ordinance 27, 2021, amending chapter 70-176, the City of Stoughton Municipal Code by creating subsection 86 relating to no parking anytime on the west side of Hill Street between East, South, and Clay Streets. Again, first reading.
Any questions on this one? All right. And then the next one.
Okay, that's gonna be 28. Up there, this is Ordinance 28, 2021, amending Chapter 70-176 of the City of Stoughton Municipal Code by creating subsection 87 relating to no parking anytime in the north and south side of East Broadway Street from Summit Street 50 feet west. And again, this is first reading.
Any questions on that one?
I don't know how much it matters or if it would be corrected, but the agenda cites the wrong streets, but it's just the agenda.
It's,
Oh, it says Hill Street. Okay,
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
again, copy paste kind of thing.
Yeah.
all right. Thanks for pointing that out. We'll review that before the next meeting and then make the other corrections and try to get a little bit more detail on the rationale.
Mhm.
All right. And then that takes us to item number 13, which is coming from the Finance Committee, Alderperson Schumacher.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We have a discussion and possible action regarding entering into an agreement for legal services with Stafford Rosenbaum LLP for the period beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2025. This item has a potential for a closed session discussion per state statute 19.85, Pren 1, Pren E, for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whether competitive or bargaining reasons deem a closed session necessary. And we can reconvene in an open session to discuss and take the action on the matter discussed in the closed session. So we can either make the motion to for this agreement, or unless anyone sees fit that they need to go into a closed session, then we can go in that direction.
And I don't believe we went into closed session at Finance, did we?
I don't think we did because, well, I don't think we did either time because remember, we did have this, we did do this 2 times because the original agreement was just for a 1-year term, and then we had them look at a multi-year term instead. So I don't think we did this in closed session for either time.
No, we didn't.
All right, I think it might be just helpful if we just go through and maybe highlight some of the key points to it and then see if there's any questions and then go from there. So I don't know if that's something you want to do, Brad, or if you want Jamin to help you with that. If you want, you can take the screen or I can drive, it doesn't matter.
Let's see. Maybe it'll just be easier for Jamin to run that because I don't know if I've got the meeting in on the tablet, so it'll probably crash if I do that through the tablet.
Yeah, I can certainly speak to the agreement. Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, you should be able to take the screen.
Okay. I apologize, I had it on my desktop and not my laptop.
Well, at least it's working this week.
So far. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay. So basically, I'm not going to go through the agreement in any amount of detail. I'll just kind of go high level in terms of what has changed. So basically what had happened, I believe we entered into an agreement that basically the rates have remained unchanged since 2019 for Stafford Rosenbaum. Before the proposed 2021, they were operating under 2 consecutive 4-year contracts that basically held rates constant at 2-year intervals. And really what happened is it was fixed fee heavy at that point in time. So we kind of have a fixed single month, and then some hourly work on top of that. And when we spoke with Attorney Dragney, he basically said that's not sustainable for their firm. So we haven't seen rate changes for a very long time. And again, it was very fixed fee heavy. So the proposal in front of you tonight basically goes to an hourly engagement letter, which I think is pretty standard for any sort of services firm. When I spoke with Matt, he was kind enough to go through and dig into basically what the proposed change might be. So they basically ran some reports for a few years to see what types of work and how many hours were associated with that work over the past few years. And we were able to come up with basically a number that could potentially hit the general fund. Now, remember, because this is moving to an hourly fee and not so much on a fixed fee basis, there's ways the city can choose to reduce the usage of Stafford Rosenbaum. So right now, every 2 weeks, they're on an agenda call. If it's determined that they don't need to be part of that, we can just tell Matt, you don't need to be part of this. Some of the prosecution work we can look at and maybe not have them work so much on it. If there's a council meeting ahead of us that we know, there's no contentious issues, there are no legal issues, we can just ask Matt not to attend that, and then we won't get charged for those hours. So ultimately, the number we came up with that's going to impact the budget going forward for 2022, and this is in the budget already, is $150,000. And right now, what we have in there prior to the 2022 budget was $130,000. So we're anticipating about a $20,000 increase for 2022 with this proposed change in rates. And the letter in front of you, I believe Matt left the rates constant for 22 and 23, and then I think he increased the hourly rates for each position by $5 for 24 and 25. So right now you have a 4-year engagement letter in front of you with the initial increase for 22 and 23, and then just a $5 bump for 24 and 25. So that's really basically the long and the short of it. We're really just moving from a kind of a fixed fee standpoint into more of an hourly rate. There's still potential to build back more. We can be more diligent on kind of some of the prosecution work, or some of the work that we do for developers and things like that. We can be more diligent looking at that and making sure those get invoiced back. So there are ways that we can reduce the cost, but again, Matt said really the structure we have in place right now with the rates that they're billing, it's just not sustainable for their firm. And I think they're under some pretty significant pressure to get these new rates in place. So I will stop there and attempt to answer any questions that anybody has on that. But again, this is already built into the 2022 budget as is, based on conversations with Matt. But again, it's certainly up to the council to determine if you want to move forward with this agreement. Again, it locks us in for 4 years, which is pretty good. Or we can certainly go out to RFP for another firm at some point.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Alderperson Hunt.
Jamin, I was wondering, after the first year, which has 150,000 budgeted, would there be any sort of a mechanism to take a look and see how close we came to our estimate?
Yeah, we do that every year, obviously.
Okay.
Legal's challenging because again, some years are up, some years are down.
Sure.
But this is kind of based on the information that Matt was able to provide in terms of the types of services they provide over the past few years. That was the best number we could come up with. Obviously, it's an estimate, and it depends on how much we actually use Stafford. So again, we can be more diligent in determining how much we want to use them when we really don't need to. Again, with the fixed fee kind of aspect of this, I think we lean pretty heavily on them. We may think twice, before reaching out to them for certain things. Doesn't mean we have to. We can just certainly think about that. But each year during the budget process, we look at this pretty closely to see if we need to increase this or not. Because it's a change in rate structure, obviously our budget for 22 is kind of a work in progress, and we'll get a better feel throughout 2022 what that number is really going to look like. I think we're in the ballpark. I don't think we're going to be materially over or under either way, but we're probably not going to be right on.
Sure. Also, I was wondering, the decisions to ask Matt to attend or not to attend, is that kind of by committee? Who would actually make that decision?
I think that would probably be determined by the council president and the mayor. So obviously, if you look at like tonight's agenda, there may not have been reason for Matt to attend. There's nothing really contentious on there. Obviously he did speak up, so you do have times where, oh, I wish Matt would have been here. But we can certainly work through that process, and certainly council can establish some rules too in terms of who makes that decision, you know, when Matt attends or not.
Okay. I trust the mayor and the council president.
Ditto.
Any other questions from council members?
Did anybody have any strong feelings one way or the other for a closed session discussion?
Personally, I don't think we need it. I'd make the motion to approve the agreement as it's presented.
All right,
Second.
if you make the motion, well, all right, Lisa's got the second. Very good.
All right, we have a motion and a second by Alderperson Reeves. Any discussion? There we go. Now I can see everybody again. Alderperson Tukowski, did you have your hand up? And you're muted.
Yes, thanks. I just have some corrections on attachment A, and whatever's easiest, I can just drop by a markup for those. But there's incorrect words and there's punctuation errors, but it's the wording that's probably the key that probably ought to be corrected.
Did you want to do that now or send them to us?
I think I'll send them to you.
Yeah, you can send them to Candy and we'll get it updated.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Alderperson Legaki?
This looks like a very fair and balanced fee structure. And so I don't feel the need to go into closed session, but the question that I have is it comparable and compared to what they send to other municipalities? And do we know that?
We do not know that, and that would be probably shake out in the RFP process. I think Matt, obviously knowing the relationship we have with them, he'd be happy to share that. But, you know, I also trust the fact that the firm probably is pushing him to increase rates since they've remained relatively stable for a number of years.
I like this proposal and thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. All right, thank you. And I think that's all we had for tonight. At the next meeting, we'll get you more information on these first readings we had tonight. I believe we may have a presentation on snow removal, which sooner or later, we have to have that conversation.
Oh, dirty zone. Oh, dirty.
And then there was something, we'll talk about the structure of the future meetings. So those will be 3 items for sure on the next agenda. And if anybody else has anything they want to talk about, send them our way.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion by Jensen, a second by Majewski. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, good night all.
Happy
Happy holidays.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanksgiving,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving, everybody.